Welcome to my channel. Today we will be knitting a small Faux fur bag. Let me walk you through the materials you will need. You can find the links to all materials in the description below. I am going to show you the yarn I'm using first. There are several types of fur or plush yarns available. I am using what I found at my local store. The yarn is approximately 5 mm thick, with bristles about a 1/4 inch long. We will be using 6 mm needles. I'm also showing you the back strap and strap rings we will use for this project. As I said, all links to similar items will be in the description. You can pause here to check the gauge and back dimensions. We'll start with a long tail cast on. Make sure to leave about an 80 cm tail. Let's begin by casting on 32 stitches and joining in the round. To join in the round, I will split the stitches in half, 16 and 16. Be careful when counting to avoid dropping any stitches. Once you have found the middle, pull out the cord and position all the stitches on the needles. Arrange the stitches so they are comfortable to work with. For this project, we won't need an extra stitch when joining in the round, since any jog will be hidden by the fur texture. Start by knitting the first half of the stitches. Working with fur yarn might feel strange at first. It took me some time to get used to it. I initially tried crocheting with this yarn but found it too complicated, which is why I opted for knitting instead. After finishing the first half of the stitches, turn your work and knit the second half to complete the first round. Let me know in the comments if you worked with this type of yarn before, whether in knitting or crochet. What's your experience been like? I'm not using stitch markers here, since I can easily identify the beginning of the round by the yarn tail, and splitting the stitches helped me locate the middle. Two rounds equal about 2 centimeters, so each round is roughly 1 centimeter. Here is a tip to avoid accidental yarn overs, which can happen easily with this yarn. To prevent extra yarn overs, place your working yarn between the cord and knitting needle. Then it's just straightforward knitting all round. At 4 centimeters, about 2 inches, we will add the strap rings. Let me explain the process. I measure the strap ring width, which is about 2 centimeters, and spans 4 stitches. We will place them on each side in the middle, 2 stitches from the end of the one needle and 2 from the beginning of the next. Here's how it looks with a strap attached. Once the strap rings are secured, continue knitting in the round until your piece measures about 20 centimeters, which should be approximately 20 rows. Don't try counting rows. It's virtually impossible with this yarn. Use a ruler instead. Now, locate the beginning of your round. We will use the 3-needle bind off. You will need an extra needle of the same size for this step. Important, don't pull the cast off row too tight. Align the stitches on parallel needles. Insert your empty needle, the 3rd needle, through the first stitch on both front and back needles. Then knit them together. Repeat this process. Pass the first stitch on the right needle over the 2nd stitch to bind off. Continue until you worked all the stitches from the left needles. Cut your yarn and weave the end through the final stitch. For weaving in ends, you can use either a crochet hook or a large darning needle. I'm using a crochet hook since I don't have a suitable darning needle. Weave the yarn tail between stitches in various directions to secure it. Now for the lining. While optional, I strongly recommend it to prevent the back from stretching. Here are my measurements using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm using a cotton fabric. I will be hand sewing using a back stitch. I'm not a professional seamstress, so I'm keeping it simple. Fold the lining in half with right sides together, then sew along the wrong side. Fold the top edge down about 2 centimeters. This is where we will create the opening for the magnetic snap. Let's test the lining to ensure it fits properly. Everything looks good, so we can now proceed with installing the snap. Make small incisions for the magnetic snap. Don't worry too much about which way to fold the snap prongs. Either direction works fine. We will sew in the lining using a backstitch. Make sure everything is properly aligned. I've also reinforced the strap rings for extra security. Find the center point, start there, and work your way around using backstitch. Try to catch more fabric on the inside rather than the outside when sewing. And that's it. Remember, you can find all the links to the materials in the description box and pinned comment. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe and give it a like so others can find it too. Hope to see you in the next video.